This is Marco Reus.
This is Shinji Kagawa.
This is Nuri Shahin.
Hello, this is Jadon Sancho.
And you're listening to the Yellowwallpod podcast.
Hello and welcome to episode 399 of the Yellowwallpod. I'm your host Stefan Butzko, and today we will talk about Borussia Dortmund's upcoming home match against VfB Stuttgart, and we will preview their away trip to Lisbon, where they will play Sporting and maybe even decide whether they play in a knockout or not. For that and more, joins me once again Matthias Zug. Hello Matthias, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, Stefan. How are you today?
I'm doing very well. So, funny story. After we recorded the last time, Matthias, I dropped my laptop. So, it had to go to the shop, and it was very quickly repaired. It wasn't much damage, to be honest. Thankfully, the hard drive survived, which is the most important part. Nevertheless, it took me almost a week for me to put this episode up. I think, was it yesterday or the day before? I don't remember the last episode, but yeah, here we are again. So apologies for that. Also, my laptop right now is a little bit slower than it was before. I don't know if you heard the intro lagging, but it appeared as doing so on my end, just because my computer, I don't know, is overloaded. Maybe it doesn't help that I have 55 tabs open at the same time, but yeah, Matthias, before I do anything else, I also have the honor to announce that this episode is sponsored.
Wir sind komplett schuldenfrei, wir zahlen keinen einzigen Euro an Zinsen.
And this episode is sponsored by Jordan Hunt at Hunt_1909 on Twitter. And he would like to say that he's very proud of Borussia Dortmund football Twitter, because a Twitter friend called Derek at RealAndRack has been struggling with mental health recently, and the Black and Yellow admin tweeted to show support, and a lot of people have showed support to him as well. And of course, our support to Derek goes out from us as well. Hope you'll feel better soon. Yeah, that's obviously a very nice sponsorship, Matthias. Looking forward to the next game, which is against VfB Stuttgart. I feel like it's maybe almost equal footing. There's a quote from Sven Mislintat, their sporting director, listing all their injuries, because I think he said with Kalajdzic, Silas, Führich, and Mamouche, 4 guys are not available who provided more than 50 goals plus assists last season in the Bundesliga and in the Zweite Liga. And then he added, it's as if Lewandowski, Gnabry, Sané, and Müller were out at the same time for Bayern, in which case they wouldn't be so proficient in front of goal. So, obviously, Stuttgart right now are struggling. They're in 15th place. They are coming to Dortmund on a 3-game losing streak. And those 3 games were lost, I believe, against Cologne, Augsburg, and Bielefeld. And yeah, so that's not really, very successful. And of course, when your best scorers are Mavropanos and Kempf, who are both defenders with 3 goals apiece, you can really see that this team is struggling to create action on goal. So, Matthias, first question, is this a must-game win for Dortmund, as they have to bounce back after the loss against Leipzig?
Well, I mean, to not lose ground against Bayern and to further distance themselves from Freiburg, which is a sentence I didn't think I'd be saying. Yeah, I mean, you have to win. I'll be honest. I mean, I still believe that Freiburg will fall away eventually. But be that as it may, I mean, if you can continue to build up your case for at least having an exceptionally comfortable second place finish, then yeah, I mean, get as many points as you can now. Of course, we know what happened post Stuttgart last season, roughly around this time of year, which was, of course, Lucien Favre's last match in charge. That debacle, was it 5-0, 5-1? I can't even remember.
5-1.
5-1.
I think Girona scored like a worldie in between, which nobody remembers.
Yeah, because everything else was so bad. But of course, different Dortmund, different Stuttgart. Then, you mentioned, I would say it's probably, if you're looking at the grand scheme and expectations, this is probably a bigger must-win for Stuttgart than Dortmund at this point, so they don't continue to crash down the table. What's helping Stuttgart is, of course, that Augsburg are playing against Bayern on Friday, even if Bayern still has a few players out due to quarantine.
Really? Bayern got the Friday game after an international break?
Yes.
Man, they got dicked over basically by the DFL. When does this happen? Usually it's Dortmund that has to
or everybody else.
Yeah, wow.
Everybody else. Well, maybe the DFL just felt like by this time, Bayern are going to be so comfortable in first place, it doesn't matter.
I love how our tin heads are always firmly done.
Of course. It's fun. It's fun. But of course, you mentioned Stuttgart's woes and, Mavropanos and Kempf as their top goal scorers, both of which are injured. They have a very thin defensive squad anyway to begin the season with, and you lose two of your starters and things start looking pretty bad. I kind of looked at how they lined up against and their 1-0 loss to Arminia Bielefeld. That says a lot right there because Bielefeld can't score to save their lives, and apparently Stuttgart are even worse. And Stuttgart got absolutely trounced by Augsburg not too long ago. I actually did watch that match, and it's let's just say Pellegrino put together a rather interesting formation and lineup. Let's call it an asymmetric 3, a lot of players, and then a striker. It was a weird thing because, again, he's struggling for players, as we well know. They're struggling for form on top of that. You can't compensate losing every goal threat. They talked about, if every attacker for Bayern were gone, but it's really like you saying, well, okay, Dortmund, we're going to take away, we already, you've lost Haaland. Well, let's take away Reus and Hazard and Daniel Mann. Oh, okay, maybe not Mann, but a lot of the other players, and see how you can conjure up goals. So I would say it's probably the most comfortable I've been ahead of a Stuttgart match in a long time, because Stuttgart, for some reason, always gives Dortmund troubles.
Well, they still have Dortmund killer David Didavi. Yeah,
that's true, but, one player team does not make.
Well, look at Caligiuri, what he has made out of his...
Not this season. All right. I feel like Dortmund kind of broke that duck this season. And it's still everything around him. We talk about Dortmund over the last few weeks having to kind of throw together a back line. I feel looking at it now, I don't know if Guerrero is going to be fit enough to start the match, but he's back in training. He's no longer listed as injured.
According to Kicker, he is. According to Kicker, he will be fully fit, and Dahoud and Emre Can will at least be expected to be included in the squad, but maybe not starting material just yet. But who knows? That's just Kicker's reporting. Well, I guess Rose has to look deep into Guerrero's eyes just on Friday to determine whether he's actually fit enough or not. We'll see.
Well, and you also can't forget there's that extremely important match coming a few days later. So it's all about trying to do man management. So maybe Stuttgart is coming at the right time, given their current rather fragile state. So maybe you start Guerrero or you bring him on later, depending on how the match goes. I wouldn't play him for full 90, in my opinion. I think that would be a crazy risk at this point.
The next games are Sporting, Wolfsburg, and Bayern. I don't know if there might be even a Champions League game in between the Bayern game. So I'm so well informed.
Theoretically, shouldn't there? Theoretically, there should be. But you've got options. You can throw Zagadou back on the pitch for a while.
Well, so the situation, muscular,
of course, he
strain.
Did. Jesus. But still, Dortmund has more options now, slightly, than Stuttgart. I feel like Stuttgart have virtually no options, and that definitely helps because one thing, when you're looking at this as a coach from a tactical aspect is what type of flexibility does the opposition have? What can they create? What can they do? How predictable are they? And you could say when Dortmund were even further decimated, there was a certain predictability there because you only had so many options that Marco Rose could throw out there and so many variations of play. Well, Stuttgart, those options have shrunk even further. And I think that plays to Dortmund's, I don't know the strengths, but at least it gives them an edge.
Yeah, no, certainly. I mean, we've talked a lot about how good Dortmund's squad depth is and how at some point even that is strained due to all the injuries, but Stuttgart certainly do not have the same squad depth. I mean, they're a team that just got out of the Zweite Bundesliga like 2 years ago, for crying out loud. So, yeah. And obviously they did lose their best player to Dortmund. So this is definitely the Gregor Kobel revenge game. More for Stuttgart than for Dortmund, I feel like. But, yeah, nevertheless, I think it should be a big advantage. I mean, Stuttgart really, I've seen them a couple of times. I wouldn't say I've seen every game of them, but, for example, the match against Bielefeld was just completely dire and abject. And I mean, the other problem they have is that Endo, their team captain, who was one of their best players, I feel like, he might be strained from the international break as well because he obviously has to travel a lot of miles. So, just adding to all these injuries that Stuttgart also just have, a lot of strain on that. I don't know what Mangala did, whether he played for Belgium or not, but yeah, he definitely is also a very good player in midfield. But around that, there's not much that I really rate that highly, to be honest. Like there are 2-3 players where I say, yep, they're good Bundesliga caliber, but otherwise, it's stretched very thin right now, and Dortmund, I think, need to absolutely take advantage, especially since it's a home match. And also, just to add, I just checked, and Dortmund actually do not play anyone between the Wolfsburg and the Bayern game. So,
okay.
Yeah, Besiktas comes afterwards.
Well, good. I mean, that definitely helps a lot.
Yeah, for Bayern to recuperate.
And I was just getting to be optimistic. Oh, well.
No, but I feel like when it comes to getting a break, I think Dortmund are more in dire need of those than Bayern at the moment. So you can feel optimistic about that. But I mean, first Dortmund need to take care of business against high-flying Wolfsburg under Kofeld, so we'll see about that. But yeah, Stuttgart, I think, is going to be, well, let's put it this way. I hope it's going to be one of those games after the international break that are not spectacular, but Dortmund just get the job done, have a, what we call an Arbeitssieg, and get it over with. I'm hoping for very uneventful 90 minutes where Dortmund score 1, 2, 3 goals, and that's it. There's not much. I'm hoping there's not much defensive calamity, and Dortmund have a lot of possession and maybe don't push the hardest, but it's enough to create the few chances they need to overcome Stuttgart, maybe even score early like they did, for example, against Mainz, and then just cruise home. That would be my ideal game against Stuttgart, to be honest. I don't need, the big shellacking, the revenge from the 5-1 from last season or anything. I just need a solid, 2-0, 3-0 or something like that win and get it over with. I'll take any win, obviously, but this is how I would ideally see this game go. So I think it's positive that Marco Reus, for example, did not have to play against Armenia, that he only Armenia, so that he is not too strained after the international break. Julian Brandt, I think, stayed a little bit longer, but he didn't get too many minutes either, so he should be in a good form and maybe even get some confidence boost from the international break. Who knows? So, yeah, I'm really optimistic about this game. Probably more so because of Stuttgart's malaise than Dortmund. But obviously having Guerrero back and Dahoud and Can on the bench at least, and of course I think Zagadou is available as well. Things are looking already much different. And I've not heard of any injuries from the international break so far, so that's a miracle there as well.
Yeah, that was the one thing I was always kind of looking at, especially when you factor in that, Manuel Akanji and Switzerland had some very, very key matchups. And
Didn't they qualify over Italy?
Yes, they did as group winners. And that made this Swiss house very, very happy.
Yeah, so I didn't even know until I went to my favorite pasta place here in Philadelphia. Shout out to Damo Pasta Lab. They make awesome world-class ragu, and I'm addicted to it, so I need to have it weekly. It's probably way too expensive, but nevertheless, my wife and I go there once a week or so. So if you're in the Philadelphia area, check it out. But yeah, so anyway, they are obviously all from Italy and passionate Italy fans. And I was like, oh god, is my pasta gonna taste shitty now because it's not cooked with the same love as it usually is. But yeah, what was it? A scoreless draw against Northern Ireland that sort of put the first nail into the European champions coffin. Interesting, that development. I've not really followed the international games much, to be honest, but that I think is quite of a shock result. And yeah, Switzerland, did Kobel play? Do you know that by any chance, since you are so Swiss affiliated? Did he even travel?
I'm spacing that right now, absolutely, completely, to be honest. I have completely spaced that.
Those are my favorite Yellowwallpod moments when I ask you a question about something you maybe should know. I had no idea.
It's been a long week. It's been a really long week.
I don't know. I saw a picture of Kobel playing for the Swiss national team, but I wasn't sure whether
not in the last match, no. No. Sorry. No. Last match, it was Jan Sommer.
Okay.
It was Jan Sommer in goal against Bulgaria that they absolutely shellacked.
But
I mean, Sommer is by far the de facto number one. So
is Kobel a part of the Swiss squad yet? Because, I mean, they have a lot of keepers.
He is not. At least he wasn't against Bulgaria. But for the most part, he is not. There are a few other younger keepers, even, and some other ones that they just have as backup. They did against Bulgaria, a few that I honestly have never even heard of, because I can't watch Swiss league matches. But
fair enough. But isn't it crazy that Switzerland has so many good goalkeepers? Meanwhile, Mexico, looking at them recently, still have to contend with Ochoa, who, I don't know, has been terrible for like the last decade or so. And Mexico, obviously a big soccer nation. So, yeah, I find it always funny how these things are distributed. That Switzerland, of all places, is churning out really good goalkeepers these days. I would even count Burki in that breath, because I personally rate him much higher than I would Ochoa.
Oh, for sure. I mean, Ochoa was great at his peak. He was decent at his peak.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, great. Let's pump the brakes a little here.
Yeah, so the backups for Jan Sommer, at least this last round, were Kuhn, who's the keeper for Salzburg, and Omlin, who is the keeper for Montpellier. Just had to quickly check, actually, because now I was curious. But no, nobody else kind of traveled with him, and that's fine. I mean, Sommer is so good. It's kind of like, Kobel is like Switzerland's Ter Stegen. It's just sitting there going, really? Come on, man. Even though, of course, Testing played against Armenia in a match that was completely meaningless. So you can tell this was an international break and a slow news week because we're like talking Swiss national team and, Ochoa for Mexico and so on. But
I like to go off on a tangent. I can't help it. I'm sorry.
I mean, but before we get to, first, we need to talk about our predictions against Stuttgart because I feel like we've probably said everything we need to say.
Yeah.
But the other thing is there are a lot of the rumors around Karim Adeyemi to Dortmund are heating up. Supposedly, I saw this, I think this morning, that he definitely has decided to not go to Bayern. Whatever that means.
Nothing. I don't know. I'm very quiet about these news reports. I don't know. I don't know who's leaking that, but maybe it's just the agent trying to get more money. So I don't know. Maybe there's something to it. But Matthias, I've read something else that might indicate a little bit more of what being to it, and that's a report that Dortmund are contemplating a loan of Youssoufa Moukoko. And I wanted to get your opinion on that because in the context of them signing Adeyemi, I think this could actually make sense.
Yes. If Adeyemi comes in, obviously then Moukoko drops even further down the pecking order. I feel if he gets loaned out to, I would be hesitant to say another Bundesliga side, more maybe Zweite Bundesliga or the Netherlands. Also because of, in the Netherlands and the Eredivisie, how well they work with young players and develop them tactically and technically. That's really what you would then need from a loan move for Moukoko. Not just playing time. Obviously, that's very important. But that also, if you're not going to be the ones to be able to manage him for 6 to 18 months, depending on how long a loan deal is, in my opinion, an 18-month loan would probably be the best deal. 6 months, you can't really get much out of. Then I would, look at a league like the Netherlands or Belgium or the Zweite Bundesliga before anything else. And my gut would tell me that's the most likely scenario.
Yeah, no, that makes all sense to me, to be honest. So, I can see that happening. Do you think it would be possible that Dortmund actually loan him out to Salzburg?
I didn't even think about that, but it could be possible. I mean, maybe as a semi-swap in the sense of, to drive the price down a little bit, say we get Adeyemi, and then for 18 months, because for 6 months, again, that just wouldn't make sense for Salzburg to say, for 18 months, you then get Youssoufa Moukoko. That actually would be a very smart move from both clubs. As much as I disdain Red Bull, whether it's in Germany or Switzerland, Brazil, you name Austria, even though Switzerland's probably next, who knows? Their training is very good. It's in line with coaching style of Marco Rose, of course, as a former Salzburg coach, and their facilities are top notch. So that would be another
really
one.
Beautiful place on top of it all.
Yes, absolutely.
If you can enjoy some Apfelstrudel with the view of the Alps, you're in a good place.
Yes, my honeymoon was spent there, so I can definitely attest to that.
All right, yeah. Well, no, we picked a warmer climate. We went to Hawaii, but we. When Dortmund played in Salzburg for that infamous Europa League loss against one Marco Rose, I think it was a 2-0 win, 2-0 loss from Dortmund's perspective. My wife and I made it like a extended weekend sort of, and absolutely gorgeous. Can only recommend the trip to Salzburg. All right, I feel like we have a lot of advertisement today, from pasta to travel. I'm curious what comes next. So predictions, Matthias. I've sort of said my wish prediction before, and I'm just gonna stick to it. I think Dortmund will win this 3-0.
Yeah, I was leaning towards a 3-0 as well.
All right. So, do you want to talk more about Adeyemi now or later?
I would say later. I mean, right now it's conjecture and hot rumors, of course. And then, of course, there's the rumor that popped up today about Witsel leaving to Newcastle.
Okay.
It'd be a very interesting choice.
Isn't Favre heading to Newcastle?
So Eddie Howe got appointed as manager at Newcastle. Also a very interesting choice. But whatever.
No idea who that is. I'm completely honest.
Eddie Howe, he brought Bournemouth up from the bottom of League Two all the way up into the Premier League, and actually kept them there for a few seasons.
I should have known that because a friend of mine is a Cherries fan. Interesting. I mean, I've said it before on this show. I think if you even get some good money for Witsel, I think his stint at Dortmund is technically over. I feel like it's only on the decline. As much as I like him,
yes.
I just feel like this whole thing is coming to an end, and both parties probably know it. So Juventus or Newcastle feels like it's barcodes either way for Witsel. We'll see what happens, but keep your finger on that pulse while I completely slack and not look for transfer rumors whatsoever.
I don't look for them, Stefan. Apparently, they just find me at 5 a.m. in front of my phone and a cup of coffee. So, talk about unhealthy habits. Anyway, moving on to Sporting.
Right, Lisbon also a really beautiful travel destination. I can tell you from first-hand experience. Even though I went to Benfica, which is probably the Estadio de Luz or whatever it's called, is probably the more the better experience overall. I mean, you see a live eagle flying around, which is pretty freaking amazing. But Matthias, obviously, this is a crucial game for the old black and yellows. Now, the good news, at least for Dortmund, is that the rules of the Champions League group stage have somewhat changed, and goal difference is no longer the tiebreaker, but first it is the head-to-head comparison, which means that Dortmund go through if they win this game and don't have to worry about the Besiktas game whatsoever. That also means that Dortmund will also survive with the draw against Sporting, and a win against Besiktas will definitely go through. Now, it will get a little tricky if Dortmund lose, but lose 2-1 or so they sort of have that away goal. Then they will have to hope that Ajax beats Sporting as well, and they beat Besiktas. So it's a bit tricky, but I think it's at least somewhat reassuring that a draw will see Dortmund alive after this game. Obviously Dortmund haven't really had any draws this season yet, if I remember correctly, but at least it's not the scenario where they don't win, that they're completely out of it. So to me, that's a positive. So I guess I appreciate the change for once. I also think the head-to-head makes a bit more sense than the goal difference. I don't know how you see that.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, a head-to-head, especially in a small group, where you only have 4 teams, obviously that to me would make the most sense because, you played against each other, and that should be the tiebreaker as it is in the next round. When it comes to like a long season like the Bundesliga and so on, I think their goal difference is more important than head-to-head just because of the time difference, that elapses between head-to-head matchups. So no, I applaud the head-to-head scenario, which obviously means Sporting thrashing Besiktas and Dortmund getting thrashed by Ajax both have virtually no meaning beyond the points won or lost.
Yeah, obviously if Sporting win by 2 or more goals against Dortmund, then they are through and this whole thing is over. But those are the risks. I mean, Dortmund arguably could have, should have taken a point or all 3 in the home match against Ajax, but Michael Oliver had other ideas. So yeah, here we are then. And I'm really interested to see how this goes because A, it's an away game, and B, Sporting were really unimpressive in the first matchup. When they came to Dortmund, they didn't really do much for the game. I don't think they had any attacking exploits, and it was probably one of the most relaxing wins for Dortmund. And obviously, it was the one that was decided by Daniel Mahlen, which is his obviously most important goal for Dortmund yet, and I think also the only one if I'm counting correctly. So, Matthias, obviously we both are not the keenest followers of Portuguese soccer, but what are your hopes and fears going into this game?
Well, my fear is Sebastian Coates scoring off of a corner and then them going low block and Dortmund not getting through because they don't have Erling Haaland. That's my biggest fear. That's obviously their biggest threat, as it was in the first match. Sebastian Coates, I don't know if it's Coates or Coates, whatever. I'm going to say Coates. Former Liverpool player, from set pieces, he's always dangerous, and he seems to be one, even though he's a defender, that keeps on cropping up for Sporting in these matches, which says a lot about Sporting's approach to a degree. It'll be interesting in general because Sporting are in an exceptionally tight race in Portugal right now. I mean, they're tied first place with Porto. Goal difference, making the difference there. And they're 1 point ahead of Benfica. And this weekend, it's not a big deal. All three clubs play mid-table sides. But then on the weekend after the match against Borussia Dortmund, if I saw it correctly, no, I didn't. Sorry, I jumped ahead 1 week. Dang it. Thought I had some insight here. They played Benfica.
Broke down right away.
Yeah, they play against Benfica. But still, I mean, they are in a tighter league race than Dortmund. So I don't know if that has any ramifications. Both teams want and need to advance into the next round of the Champions League financially. It'd be huge for both. So, I mean, this does have a feeling of a final knockout match for both teams. Maybe give a slight edge to Sporting because they're playing at home and don't have Haaland. And they're going to be very, very hard to break down. That is one thing that I believe will be a problem for Dortmund. And the biggest fear then, of course, is Dortmund gets sucked in to that camping mentality and then get hit on a break or with a stupid sad piece.
The problem is obviously that ever since Sporting lost 1-0 to Dortmund, they've won every 9 of their games, including obviously the 1-4 and 4-0 wins against Besiktas. So, they're in excellent form. They have confidence and a winning streak, which Dortmund, to this date of the recording, do not have. I feel like it's going to get very tense. The atmosphere is probably going to be pumping. And, something obviously I really wanted to avoid. And before Dortmund fell apart completely due to injuries, I honestly assumed that they would be in a better position after the 2 ties against Ajax. But, this is also nice about the Champions League, that these games actually do matter and you play against good teams of a high European caliber and, things are at stake. To me, I know it's not anything you necessarily must have during the group stage, but it's also something that makes me look forward to it. So, I don't know about you, but strategy-wise, I'm really intrigued how Dortmund approached this one because they don't have to win. A draw is enough for them. So it's not like Sporting can just sit back and relax because they will have to score something eventually. And I'm wondering whether this actually can play into Dortmund's cards. To me, the key player for this game is undoubtedly Julian Brandt. Because if Can or Dahoud are not capable of playing in this game, to me, if he manages to have a good game, to have some good passes and not have a pass completion rate of like 35%, and some control also against pressing. I think Dortmund will manage to outplay Sporting. I'll be honest about that. And if there's one observation that I've made, and I will generalize terribly now, but against Portuguese teams, I feel like there are always these tactical flaws they commit against Dortmund where they leave key players open too much. Julian Brandt could be the benefactor from this. I know against Benfica, they left Julian Weigl glaringly open back in the day. And I think in the other game, they also didn't really put too much pressure on our midfielders. So if that's the case again, and Sporting play in a similar fashion as they did in Dortmund, then I'm actually not concerned at all about Dortmund getting a result.
Yeah, if they play a no-press game, which I think is how one would classify the first matchup between the two, and give Dortmund time on the ball and let Dortmund be comfortable on the ball, then yeah, Sporting's going to lose, or at the very least not win. If they get very uncomfortable for Dortmund in terms of aggression sitting at Dortmund's feet, and Dortmund don't leave big gaps defensively, or, like I said, commit fouls in and around the box, or especially in, but around the box for stupid set pieces, then yeah, this should play into Dortmund's favor.
Yeah. All right. So I don't have that much more to say because, frankly, I don't know who will be fit and ready after this Stuttgart game. It's a Wednesday game too, so there's almost a whole week in between today and this game. And theoretically, I could have done like an extra episode just to preview this game, but right now I just have so much work to do. I'm not finding the time, to be honest. So, Matthias, unless you have any more insight on Sporting, just go ahead and predict this game.
I do not, because obviously, when I tried to fake it, it completely fell apart in front of our listeners' ears, so to speak. So I would not fake it. I thought I had something, then I looked at the date and looked at my calendar and went, crap. That's a week later. But it should be a great game, Benfica against Sporting. Aside from that, I think Dortmund are going to win this one 1-0.
All right. I'm saying Dortmund win this 2-1. So there. I'm coming out of the international break with 2 optimistic predictions, 2 Dortmund W's. So what more do we want? So that's all I have to offer. I don't know. Maybe the return of some key players makes me more optimistic. There's even been some, I don't know if it's a rumor or reporting that there's a chance that Haaland will be fit for the Bayern game. I don't know how his comeback is going, but if that were true, obviously that would be huge. I don't know if he would be able to start right away, but even if he's just there as a sub for like 30 minutes or so, or 20 minutes, even that I think could make a difference. I don't know, but obviously always better to have Haaland than to not have Haaland. As I find no more obvious statements, and I think that's a good time to end this. So Matthias, please tell our listeners where to find you on the old Twitter webs.
Yes, you can harass me, though I'd prefer you not to, at Matthiasuk.
Yeah, no harassing at Stefan Butzko on Twitter, please. But you can follow us on Twitter and Facebook as well at Yellowwallpod. You can subscribe to the show on YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Spotify, etc. And if you want to support us financially as Jordan Hunt did, then go to patreon.com/theyellowwall. And we shall be back after those 2 games with a preview of the Wolfsburg match. And we'll see how things go until then. So I have nothing else to say other than, as always, thank you for listening and goodbye.